When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lost. That's why we're excited to announce our new partnership with Fanatics Sportsbook, the only sportsbook that gives you fan cash when you bet, win or lose. Use fan cash on all NBA and other fan gear, bonus bets, collectibles, and more. It's the most rewarding place for fans to place their bets. Download Fanatics Sportsbook and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? I haven't slept, so you're probably doing better than me. That's not true. This has been a wonderful day. It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. People are pleased to be joined by the one, the only, the man who has redefined niche basketball journalism, in which he kind of covers one team still, but also covers all the teams, and he's making up the rules as he goes along because, hey, he's Fred fucking Katz, and that's what he could do, of The Athletic and of Katz and Shoot. How you doing, buddy?
Who says that a job has to be a certain way?
Not you.
Just do whatever. I basically just cover the Knicks on my own time.
So,
I mean, it's my podcast. I just cover the Knicks on my own time. It's like my community work.
But what I love, listen, you've blended the two worlds. Like, for instance, you had ostensibly an NBA missive for the Athletic this morning in your weekly Friday column, in which you look at three different things that was about the NBA at large. And yet, one of those things just so happened to be about two former Knicks who now play for the Timberwolves. Great clip, by the way. And then the other just so happens to be about the team that the Knicks just vanquished in a thrilling 6-game series, which we are actually not going to talk about today because we are going to talk about the Boston Celtics. Do you see how I steered us on course? Did you like that?
Wow. So the listeners don't know that this is an unsupervised podcast.
It's not just that it's unsupervised. It's more than that.
Andrew's not here. I have a hard out because I have a flight back from Detroit. Andrew is not here. There is nobody around. I'm technically I am staying past my hotel checkout time. We are in true gambling territory.
You're Kramer.
We promised
with the gas tank.
It's exactly correct. We are driving on empty right now.
If I could grab your hand.
I and the car salesman are thrilled. We are freaking out. And we promised Andrew that there'd be no nonsense.
None.
And you know what? You know what? We lied.
No, we promised ourselves. Forget Andrew. We promised ourselves that we could do this, and we're going to abide by that because we only have a limited amount of time, and we need to do the. I guess this is the. I forget if we did this for every series. I don't know what, and it's not. Well, first of all, I can't even call it the annual Dean Wade draft because it's now happening multiple times and like per playoffs. But we have to do another edition. How about that? We have to do another edition of the Dean Wade draft. Yeah,
right. We have to.
We must. It is required.
We have no other choice.
We don't have a choice. That's a nice lamp behind you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank the Westin.
There you go. Oh, we stay at Weston's too because we're Marriott Bonvoy members. Okay, we got to stay on track.
Loyal.
Okay, yes. So the rules are simple. We're drafting the most important players in the upcoming series, which I have not thought about for like more than 8 seconds before coming on with you. So this should be really fun.
It's gonna be a good podcast.
Fantastic pod. I'm also going on 2.5 hours sleep, but did I say that already? I think I said that. Do you want the first pick or do you want me to pick first?
I want you to pick first.
You want me to pick first? Okay. With the first pick in this second round edition of the Dean Wade draft.
And before you pick, I want us to reiterate, it's not the best players.
No, it's not.
It's not the best. My order is very clearly not the best players, but it is the guys who I think are the most important.
But what makes that so ridiculous, I'm not saying you, but what makes this whole exercise that we thought of 3 years ago so ridiculous is even with that clarification, it's still so amorphous because, like,
totally.
Peyton Pritchard could be the most important player in this series if he comes out and goes 38 for 47 from deep and is, Steph Curry for the whole time he plays, and turns 100%. Into Bruce Bowen on defense. That probably isn't going to happen though. So whatever, we make this up as we go along, but there is some logic to it. My first pick is going to be Jason Tatum, and I did not have to think all that long and hard about that. I have very simple logic for this, which is that if Jason Tatum goes out and plays the sort of basketball that he is capable of playing, I don't think the Knicks can win this series. And I think that applies to both sides of the ball. When the Celtics have the ball, I don't need to tell any Knicks fans what Jason Tatum is capable of doing. The Knicks don't have a way to guard him that I can tell. Maybe you have some ideas, but I guess you could take Karl-Anthony Towns off the floor for more time, or take Jalen Brunson off the floor for more time. But even if your roster made that more feasible than this roster makes it, which again it doesn't, he's still really good. And if there is one weak point on your court that you can go at, he's probably going to figure out a way to go at it. So offensively, if he plays within himself and just makes the right plays and keeps the train moving, I don't think there's anything the Knicks could do about it. And then defensively, you could argue he's the most important defensive player in the series for Boston, because I would assume he's going to get the cat assignment. We just saw how that went with Tobias Harris. Now, Tobias Harris outweighs Jason Tatum by, I think, 30 pounds. I don't know if that's, I'm trusting the internet there, but he seems bulkier than Tatum. Is that going to be a pivot point in the series? We'll see. But if he can do a commensurate job slowing down Karl-Anthony Towns, then the Knicks really have no chance. But again, we'll see what happens there. So that's my first pick.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially because he's going to be guarding Towns. I mean, I wrote all series about how Towns's habits struggle. His habits just change when a wing is guarding him. And I had a story that came out after. Yes. Can you give I'm sorry. Were you saving the Tobias stat for a future story, or have you released that? No, I was about to tell it now. Sorry. But I did say it on my podcast, which is not out yet. My latest episode, which is not out yet, but I just recorded. And, throughout the series against the Pistons, Tobias Harris was guarding Towns, and he guarded him for 250 some odd possessions during that series. And it was the fifth most common matchup in the playoffs so far. He guarded him a lot. And Towns averaged a little over 16 points per 100 possessions on those plays. Not great. A little over 5 free throw attempts per 100 possessions with Harris guarding him. Not great. And he had a 40.3% effective field goal percentage against him, which is disastrous. It would be the worst high volume effective field goal percentage in the league over the course of a full season amongst high volume players. By a landslide. Yes, by a wide margin. By a landslide. It wouldn't even be close. And so, but his volume goes down. He took 4 threes a game during that series, and Tatum guarded him a ton. I think Drew Holiday is going to guard him we saw on opening night, and we saw portions throughout the season. And that's going to be anyway. I'll save my Towns thoughts for when he gets drafted. Yeah. But yeah, Tatum's the obvious number 1 pick. Number 2 pick. I am taking the former apple of Knicks fans' eye, Kristaps. Wow. Okay, we're getting kooky early. I love it. Justify it. Yeah. Everything the Celtics want to do is about Porzingis, and everything that the Knicks will have to succeed in spite of is Porzingis. Porzingis is going to be the one guarding Josh Hart and sagging off of Hart and sinking into the lane and protecting the rim. Porzingis is going to be the one who is going to be pulling out, presumably, Karl-Anthony Towns, pulling out, presumably, Mitchell Robinson away from the paint, and is going to be firing away deep threes. The Knicks can struggle. Towns can struggle against pick and pop centers. And I am really curious to see how the Knicks guard him. I'm really curious to see how the Knicks guard him when he's away from the basketball. Porzingis was also one of the best post-up players in the NBA this year. They will use his post-ups really well. They'll force teams to switch, and they will use his post-ups really well as a way for him to score and as a way for them to create more threes from the inside. The Knicks did some interesting stuff off the ball against the Pistons where they would kind of pre-switch before a lot of pick and rolls. Like as Towns was coming up to get dragged into an action, the Knicks could pre-switch. But those sorts of things are easier to pull off against a team like the Pistons, who often play with at least one non-3-point shooter and often multiple non-3-point shooters, which allows another guy to sink into the lane and switch with Towns before he has to go up and guard the screen. So you can have somebody else who's more, versatile guarding the back end of that screen along with either Anunoby or Bridges, and then you just switch it and it's easier. And you saw like Anunoby guarding the front end of a pick and roll, Bridges guarding the back end of a pick and roll more in that Pistons series because of that than you did during the regular season. That's more difficult to pull off when the Celtics have 5 3-point shooters out there. Porzingis is the guy who changes everything for them. He's not the second best player in this series. I'm not arguing that. This is not a Dean Wade situation. But he is, Dean Wade would be the best player in the series. But he just, the Celtics, the best player on the Celtics is Jason Tatum, who's on everybody's MVP ballot. And the second best player on the Celtics is Jaylen Brown. And the top two players on the Knicks are Towns and Brunson. But I think this series is going to revolve around Porzingis. I just feel like this could be a massive series for him on both sides of the ball and how the Knicks react, not just because of what he does, but because of the reactions that he is going to inspire.
Yeah.
He inspires such unconventionality from whoever they're playing on both sides of the ball he is really tough matchup for them. He is a really tough one.
Putting Porzingis on the floor with the rest of the Celtics is like if you go to like the best I don't know I haven't gone out for a really great dish of pasta in a long time, but like whatever the best Italian restaurant in Manhattan is, and you get like a wonderful dish of like spaghetti carbonara or something, and then someone comes over after, like when you get it, like, oh, would you like these freshly shaved truffles all over it, which like retail for I don't know how many hundreds of dollars per ounce. Like that's Kristaps Porzingis. Do you make anything of the fact that he was like, or let me rephrase that. Do you think the Knicks will make anything of the fact that he was what, 2 for like he didn't shoot the ball at all versus Cleveland, or do you think they won't even look at that
against Orlando? You mean?
Orlando. Yeah.
No, I don't think there's anything to make of that because Orlando is such a different team than the Knicks are. Like forget about quality. So much of the NBA is about stylistic matchups, and Orlando, all they do is take away threes. Like they're incredibly physical defensively, and their whole defense is driven to taking away threes. And they did that against Boston. They limited Boston on 3-point attempts tremendously during that whole series, and they switched a lot. But a lot of the schemes that Orlando deployed against Boston, like the Knicks are not going to do. They're not going to be switching with Karl-Anthony Towns. Like I think the way that Knicks defend pick and rolls, like, yeah, you'll have to send up Cat higher closer to the level of the screen or something, but you're going to have to be more aggressive at the point of attack. And Bridges, I thought, had a really good defensive series against Detroit. I thought it was the best he played defensively all year, without question. It was the most physical he played on both sides of the ball all year, without question. But they're going to need more. The Celtics are just, I don't know. Porzingis makes them built to take advantage of the Knicks' flaws more than anybody else on that team.
They're the most well-built team in given the rules of the game now. I don't want to have a conversation about the Celtics versus like the 90s Bulls or something, but given the way the rules are now, I I just don't think you could build a better basketball team. The Porzingis conversation would be like slightly more interesting to me if, I guess, Towns, instead of Towns, it was like just like a big that you could theoretically leave on an island against Jason Tatum more and like switch that more, because then it's like, oh, well, then who's the small that's getting switched onto Porzingis, and will they lean into that matchup, and can Porzingis make hay with that? With the Knicks, it's just like, I don't know. It's prey. So I guess that means it's my pick.
Is it? Wait, I need to know.
What
is it? Are you saying the Knicks need to PRAY, or Porzingis is going to make the Knicks PREY? PRAY.
And I say this not as a religious man. I'm not going to overthink the next pick. Maybe this flies a little bit in the face of the spirit of the exercise. I'm going to take Brunson. I like the Celtics are so good that the notion of me being like, Jalen Brunson's going to just have to win this series for the Knicks by being amazing, that's stupid. That's not going to happen. That said, Jalen Brunson could do some amazing things. We've seen him have success against Celtic defenders. We've seen him have success against Drew Holiday. That particular matchup does not seem to bother him all that much. I don't know if the Celtics have an individual defender that will, I don't say fluster, but like Asar did geez, you wrote about it today in your article. The possession before the three was like, how old is Asar Thompson that he did that?
14.
Whatever he is.
12.
He's a very young player, and for him to get a 24-second violation in the final minute of a game like that, like I don't think the Celtics have anyone on that level, but they do have 5 players or 6, however many players you want to say, that can make Brunson have to work. If the Knicks going to win the series, it's like all of the peripheral stuff, all the X's and O's stuff. Like if like 1 is the worst they could do and like 10 is the absolute best they could do, they're going to have to do all that other stuff at like a 7 out of 10 level or an 8 out of 10 level, something like that. And Jalen Brunson's going to have to average an efficient 40 points at 30 some odd points a game. Like I just don't see, like whatever path you choose for the Knicks to win this series, it's going to have to involve Jalen Brunson being freaking amazing. So I'll take him with my next pick.
Yeah, I mean, no denying that. I'll take Karl-Anthony Towns with the 4th pick.
I thought about it.
And the reason why is because for the Knicks to have any chance, they are going to need to create 3-pointers at some sort of level that keeps pace with the Celtics. The Knicks were 28th in the league in 3-point rate. About 38% of their shots during the regular season were 3-pointers. 28th out of 30. About 54% of the Celtics shots during the regular season were 3-pointers. That's number 1 by a pretty good margin. They took almost 53s a game, which is insanity. And I think people look at shooting threes in kind of a regressive way. They think that shooting threes is about shooting threes, but it's actually about creating threes. And the Knicks are going to need to create threes. Brunson is going to have to create threes. They're going to have to get stops, which is going to have to get them in transition. And they're going to have to create advantages. And not just create advantages. They're going to have to create advantages that the Celtics believe are disadvantages. The Celtics don't think that Jason Tatum guarding Karl-Anthony Towns is a disadvantage. You know how you know that? Because they're not just starting the matchup on him. They're not sending double teams at Towns when Towns posts them up.
Yeah.
They are going to need to find ways to draw 2 to the ball, either because they're doing it in transition or because they are doing it with interesting screen action or with interesting cuts or because somebody's blowing by somebody or anything like that. They're going to have to bring a second defender to the ball to create threes. They are also, and this brings me back to Towns, where Towns is going to have to create some threes for others, whether on drives, post-ups, whatever else. They are also not at liberty to totally change their style because of something that Boston is doing. And I get it. Tibbs says all the time, the game tells you what to do. But there's another side of that.
Yeah.
Like, the Celtics are going to game plan for you to do things that they want you to do. And if you take, I don't think Tibbs means it literally, but if you literally only do what the game is telling you to do, then you're also playing into the other team's game plan. And I think the game tells you what to do is how you end up taking 4 3-point attempts just because a wing is guarding you in a series against Detroit. Towns took 4 3-pointers a game, and he's going to have wings guarding him this whole series. And if he takes 4 3-pointers a game, the Knicks are not going to be able to shoot 10 for 26 against Boston and win a game. Or at least win 4, I should say. Maybe they'll win a game. They're not going to be able to shoot 10 for 26 against Boston and win 4 or win 3. They're not going to be able to do that. They need to find ways to put up shots. Towns need to find ways to free himself. I've written about this over and over again. They need to find ways to hunt down more efficient shots. And it's obviously not just Towns. It's so much more than just Towns. But Towns is a big part of that.
He's a massive part of it. And because of how they're going to guard him, he's probably, in theory, the easiest guy to spring for threes. If you make an effort. Look, I don't want to get into a Tibbs discussion, but like I think it's fair to say you are a fairly, not a proponent of Tibbs. I think you think highly of the man and his preparation and all that he puts into the job.
Yeah, sure. He's a very good NBA coach.
Yeah, as I agree with that.
He's had a lot of success.
He has. Like, if they go out there and they don't push any issues, which is, I think, what you're talking about, whether it's this issue or, I mean, to me, this is probably the most obvious issue to push. I'm sure there's some other issues that we could get into. I think you just essentially made the argument for everybody who wants Tibbs gone, which is to say that, like, sometimes like, as you said, it's like you have to tell the game a little bit what to do instead of just the game telling you what to do. And I think that'll be something fascinating to watch in this series. The other reason I think, two reasons I think Towns is a great pick here. One, I wonder if he at any point can make them rethink the strategy of just leaving Tatum down there and, punishing that to the degree where it becomes something that they need to reconsider. And then number 2, and I hope we don't exist in this world, but if Towns has a poor series, I mean, that's like they are probably going to get swept. Like, if he just goes out there and plays very poorly, I don't see how the Knicks, like, unless they just don't play him, and even that creates other issues. I just don't see how they can stay on the floor with the Celtics.
Yeah. All right, Johnny boy, make your pick. We're no nonsense today.
We are no nonsense today.
None whatsoever. Nonsense is banned.
Man, I could go in a few different directions here.
Kind of like a Sar Thompson.
That was good.
Dude, it is. Can we talk about the Brunson crossover for 2 minutes?
Well, you saw what I texted Benji earlier today. I was like, have you ever done anything like that, or have you ever attempted anything like that? And he said, what did he say? If I ever tried something like that, my left hip would be in Kalamazoo.
Yeah. I mean, like, Asar Thompson is an incredible defender.
He's really good. He guessed/gambled a little bit, so there's that.
Yeah. He's an awesome defender, and if you look at the play where he blocked Brunson a minute earlier, like, Brunson goes the same direction as he did during the crossover, and then tries the same crossover.
Yeah,
and Thompson sips with him. The fact that he went through the legs and just no push off against that level of defender, like, that was a nuts move. That was crazy.
All right.
Anyway, is it my pick? My pick.
No, it's my pick. You filibustered for me long enough. Right, in the spirit of you taking Kristaps Porzingis second, I'm going to take Josh Hart.
Okay.
I don't know how much I need to talk about this. The Celtics are not going to guard Josh Hart. They're going to. I wrote a newsletter earlier today, and I wrote that, like, if you think the Pistons were playing off of Josh Hart, like, the level to which the Celtics will ignore Josh Hart is going to make the Pistons coverage look like a porno. Because they're. I'm glad I don't
even know what that means.
Because they're far off of him, but compared to how far the Celtics off of him, it will be like they were much closer. And in pornos, people are very close together.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like weird help coverage categories.
Of course, I don't even want to get into that.
Do you know what Corey Maggetti's nickname was?
I love how we went from porn to Corey Maggetti. Please tell me what Corey Maggetti's nickname was.
Corey Maggetti's nickname was Bad Porn.
Why?
This is true. Because his game had lots of penetration, but it wasn't pretty to watch. I swear that is true. That is not a joke I'm making. That is absolutely the truth.
Now I'm expected to continue the podcast.
No nonsense.
The No Nonsense podcast.
No nonsense. We're about basketball and hotel lamps, and
that's what it is here at the Knicks Film School.
No nonsense. Operation. That is real though. That was really Corey Maggetti's nickname.
Look. What if Josh Hart goes out there and shoots 9 threes? On Monday and makes 4 of them. Does it matter? I would hope it does. But he's going to have to then go out and do it again in game 2, and he's going to have to go out and do it again in game 3, and he's going to have to keep doing it for the Celtics to actually change anything they're doing. And probably he could do that every game, and the Celtics will never change what they're doing because they're just going to be like, if this is how we fucking go down, then this is how we're going to go down. So maybe this is a wasted pick. But you know what? If he goes out there, because, like, hey, I looked it up before. There's a dozen NBA players in the playoffs who have attempted at least double-digit threes and are shooting at least 50% on those. And you know what? Josh Hart's one of them. I know it's like however many, it's like 14 threes, but still, or attempts. But there's enough there, and like we saw it a year ago. We literally changed the freaking Sixers series with this exact thing. And if he could do some of that, and he could just do all the other Josh Hart stuff and make it so that the Celtics are at least like, if he can fluster them, just fluster them, fluster their defense. That is awesome. Jalen Brunson is awesome. Bridges could do things with the ball. OG could do things with the ball. I don't know that any Knick is single-handedly, because of how they're going to be guarded this series, more capable of flustering the Celtics defense than Josh Hart. So that's why he's my pick.
Josh Hart's off-ball defense is going to be tremendously important too.
Oh, that too.
Because you cannot get back cut. You can't fall asleep and get back cut against the Celtics. And his off-ball defense this year has been weird. For what it's worth, I thought he was really good in the Pistons series. I thought he was one of the only guys who I would say was just consistently really good.
I've said it a few times. I think he was the most consistent Knick. When you factor in that Jalen Brunson had some not great moments, like I think Josh Hart was the most consistent player on the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not the best, but the most
consistent.
No. And in a series where the Knicks just like at times looked like totally unimpressive and figured out, Hart, his energy and his rebounding really stood out. His passing really stood out. I thought he was really good as an on-ball defender in that series. Off-ball, not as great. On-ball, really good. Overall, good defensive series for him. And he was getting rebounds. The other part of it is it really stands out with him when the Knicks are getting into their offense with 13 on the shot clock, and then Hart just gets a defensive rebounding and goes. And you're like, oh my goodness. There's at least one possession where they got into an action 4, 5, 6 seconds into possession instead of 12. There's at least one of them.
it's not a huge sample size. It's like 60 something minutes. They got destroyed when Josh Hart was off the floor in the series. For whatever that's worth.
Reversal of the regular season trend.
Well, it's playoff time. Time to get real. Okay, who's your third pick? Come on, we got to hurry up.
All right. This is the Dean Wade Memorial pick in the Dean Wade Memorial draft.
If you take fucking Peyton Pritchard here,
I'm taking Peyton Pritchard, baby.
No, you know what? This is actually, I don't want to make your point for you. This is actually not insane. Go on.
No, it's not insane because it's in taking Peyton Pritchard, what I'm doing is I'm taking the inverse of Deuce McBride. And in that Pistons series, the Knicks really only got stuff out of their starters, and the stuff out of their starters wasn't good enough. The Knicks starters outscored the Pistons they played 144 minutes together, the starters did, in those 6 games. And they outscored the Pistons by 3 points total. The whole series.
They must have outscored them a lot last night because they were in the red.
Yeah, they were in the red. Yeah, they were in the red, and they outscored them by 3 points over the course of the whole series. And the Knicks starters versus the Celtics starters might not go so great. Knicks starters were about +4 per 100 possessions during the regular season, which is a larger trend of just a place where you don't want to be when you build a team around your starters and you're just +4. And I wrote my column on the Knicks coming into the year. It was like, this team is going to be about, can the starters destroy other teams enough to make this team good enough? And the starters did not. Peyton Pritchard is the 6th man of the year, is one of the best shooters in the league, was top 5 in the league in 3-point makes, is feisty as hell defensively, is probably going to see some time on Brunson when he overlaps with him, is going to see some time on McBride, is honestly a really good offensive rebounder. Like, as good of a loose ball guy as Josh Hart is, Peyton Pritchard is an unbelievable loose ball guy. I wrote this earlier in the year. I don't know if it's still true, but it was true till pretty late in the year, that Peyton Pritchard averages the farthest distance on his offensive rebounds of any qualifying player in the NBA. And he gets like 1.5 offensive rebounds a game. Like, it's pretty freaking good. And it's because he just chases down these balls. Like, you miss a jumper and there's a long rebound. He just chases it down. Very similar type of rebounder to, not as good of a rebounder as Hart. And he doesn't have the size of Hart and the physicality quite of Hart, but he is a similar sort of loose ball guy as Josh Hart is. I'm taking him because he's the inverse of Deuce. And also because if Peyton Pritchard has a huge series, which he could, then I don't know how the Knicks win that series. Like, part of everything going right for the Knicks is stuff going wrong for Peyton Pritchard. You know, if the Celtics are normal and Peyton Pritchard hits 4 threes a game, I don't know how the Knicks overcome that. Like, they need him to just have just a mess of a series for totally reasons beyond their control.
You know why the Celtics are -850 or 900 or whatever the hell they are to win this? Because we could sit here and come up with like 7 or 8 different things where, like, if this happened, if this like not totally unreasonable thing happens, there's no way the Knicks could win this series, and we can't come up with one thing in the other way. Like, there's just not. 2 other things on Pritchard. One, Knicks fans who maybe have not watched a ton of Celtics like this year or maybe even last year should like prepare themselves now. Don't be the person who's like, man, we're losing to Peyton freaking Pritchard, because guess what? You're gonna be hurting because of Peyton freaking Pritchard. And second, remember as quickly as Emmanuel Cookie was exploding in his rookie or maybe his second year, and like Peyton Pritchard was not even like in the Celtics rotation. There was some talk about like, man, Wes wanted either Pritchard or Quickly. Boy, did we dodge a bullet. Imagine if they had ended up with Pritchard instead of Quickly. I'm not gonna ask you to answer the question, but I think it's an interesting question. Who would you rather have for the next 3 years? Peyton Pritchard making what is this?
$8 million a year, I think.
$3 million total, $24 million total over the next 3 seasons after this one, or Emmanuel quickly making, I think like $100 million over the next 3 seasons. Don't answer.
I mean, I think when you take the money into account, I think we both think it's a very obvious answer. I think even Emmanuel quickly would agree with us.
I think Emmanuel.
I'd rather be Emmanuel quickly.
I'd
rather employ the guy who makes like 20% of the other guy.
It's all right. Yeah, a great contract. Okay, I'll go. I'll go Jaylen Brown. Same theme. If Jaylen Brown goes out and just like has the series that he's capable of having, I think part of the strategy for the Knicks has to be not that we're like gonna who is the team that like let Jaylen Brown like just shoot 8,000 threes of it was a big game. It got a lot of notoriety. It was like a year or two ago. You don't remember this? Someone's strategy was like, we're just gonna let Jaylen Brown shoot, and he like hit all of his three. I forget. It was a specific game that this happened. I'll think of it later. I don't think the Knicks are gonna do that. But if there's a guy on the Celtics who you are going to feel more comfortable shooting it, I think it's going to be Jaylen Brown. And the other part of it is, I think, or at least during the regular season, he has been the most obvious switch candidate for Jalen Brunson, in which the Knicks were at one point towards the end of the series, the regular season series, were seemingly willing to live with that. And I would imagine they're going to have to live with it more in this series. So is Jaylen Brown going to make them pay? Is Jaylen Brown not going to make them pay? And then I guess the only other thing is, is he another candidate to guard Cat at times? Because he's not as tall as Jason Tatum, but he's a little bit bigger. And I wonder, is that something that they turn to? And there's also, is Jaylen Brown healthy? That's the other part of this. Like, because he's had these issues, obviously, down the regular course of the regular season into the playoffs. So Jaylen Brown's my pick.
He's definitely a candidate to guard Cat on like switches. I don't know if they'll start with him on Cat all that much.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think they have enough personnel to be able to pull that off, and I think we'll see probably Jaylen Brown guarding. I think we'll probably see him on the Knicks wings and that kind of stuff.
Which is another pivot point, because like, is that something the Knicks like, hey, we're gonna try to poke at this a little bit? And what does that look like?
Yep. All right. I'm taking Drew Holiday.
I knew you were going Drew.
Who is also coming off an injury. Might play game one, might not play game one. Whenever you have a point guard who you're like, this guy could guard Karl-Anthony Towns, and no one thinks it's crazy, I feel like that guy's got to go pretty high. I also wonder how the Knicks are going to guard Holiday, because Holiday look, he has not looked the same offensively this year. He hasn't hit threes at the same rate that he normally does. His role and his playmaking have gone down. That's not just because of like age. That's also just because the Celtics have so much excess that they don't need him to do stuff. And Drew Holiday has no ego whatsoever. So he's down to hang in the corner and play make when he has to. But there are times throughout the year, and I was just talking about this with Jay King on my podcast. There are times throughout the year when some teams will put centers on Drew Holiday, and they'll be like, okay, you know what? We'll dare you. Just run stuff at our center and run stuff with Drew Holiday. And if Drew Holiday beats us, we'd rather that than Jason Tatum beating us. And I don't think the Knicks are going to do that. The Knicks never really cross match. However, I just wonder what the Knicks will look like if they get desperate. But
why do they have to get desperate, Fred? I'm sorry. Like this is the other side of the coin to the thing you brought up earlier about generating more threes for Towns, forcing more looks for Towns. Like it's funny. I sound like a frustrated fan with the coach, but like, why not come out in game one and have some possessions where Katz on Drew Holiday? Like, what's the disadvantage?
I don't disagree with you. I just think it would be, and it's, it's a question absolutely worth asking Tibbs about. Lean into the series.
Good thing I know a beat reporter who might have access.
I haven't. Well, there hasn't been the access yet. The Knicks didn't practice.
There hasn't been the access yet. Okay.
Knicks didn't practice today, so no one's really gotten any. After Game 6, Bondi asked a question about the Celtics, and Tibbs kind of gave haven't had any time to prepare yet. I can't really answer any of that stuff, so it's not worth asking about then. And that's absolutely 100% worth asking about with Tibbs. But history says Tibbs doesn't like to cross match with his centers. So as of now, I have to say I'd be surprised if that happened right away. I think Holiday is going to be really important for them on both sides of the ball, assuming that he's healthy, and he's just a really freaking good player, man. Yep. He's just there's a reason why every time a team acquires Drew Holiday, they just win the title now. You just acquire Drew Holiday and you're like, guess we won the title now. And there's a reason for that. So I'll go Drew Holiday. Because honestly, can I make a little comment on this whole process?
Please.
We've done this draft so many times, dating back to the Cavs series with the Dean Wade pick. And I have to say, this is the least I've cared about the order that I've drafted guys. Normally I've got my opinions and I'm like, I feel strongly about taking Dean Wade early, You
did feel strongly about that.
Yeah. I normally I've got my stuff and I'm like, on this one, I'm like I had Josh Hart. We had 14 picks. I had Josh Hart number 14 and you took him early. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I had no visceral reaction to that. I didn't even mention it on the pod. I guess I am mentioning it on the podcast.
You are mentioning it on the podcast just to make me look silly.
But I didn't plan to mention it on the podcast. It didn't seem crazy to me when you did it because I just feel like this series just feels like it just needs to be crossed off the to-do list.
That's one way of putting it.
It doesn't. It just feels like it's like, all right, next one. All right, Cavs Celtics coming up.
I mean,
it just feels like that. And the other series that we've previewed have all felt like I've expected competition in all of them. And I don't know how much competition to expect in this. I really don't.
And that's why I'm coming at this from a different point of view, I think, which is that I, as a fan of the team, I am trying to retain some modicum of hope that they could make this competitive. And I'm coming at it from the perspective of, okay, if this is a competitive series, how is it a competitive series? And if it's not a competitive series, like what are there's a lot of ways that this could not be a competitive series, but what are the most obvious ones that it can't be? And so that's kind of been, why I've drafted the way I've drafted. In that same spirit, I will take OG Anunoby with my 5th pick. Again, this is, it's the 9th pick in the draft here. Taking arguably the best individual defensive player in the series because of how the Celtics operate. It's not like OG Anunoby could single-handedly go in and blow up what Boston does on offense. No single player could do that. You need a team full of players who could do that. So I think that explains for me why he falls this far and why you could probably argue he could fall even further. The reason why I'm taking him here is I think offensively, it's again looking for signs of hope. If OG Anunoby goes into this series, and I understand he did it against a bunch of really crappy teams, but if he looks more like the guy that we saw for a month when he was looking like an All-NBA player, well, then that is an interesting thing. That's a wrinkle that could certainly change things. And he had some like he wasn't the most efficient in the series against Detroit, but I thought he was good offensively. I thought he was a solid offensive contributor. And again, for this team, sadly, 6.5 3-point attempts a game is like fucking a dozen for a normal team. he is putting up the threes for the most part, and he's doing it more than anybody else on their roster. So that's another pivot point. So I think offensively is actually the place I'm looking more for OG to make a significant impact.
Yeah, he did a great job on Cade. I'm going to take his counterpart in the wing. I'm going to take Mikal Bridges, who offensively was very up and down. But I will say, I came away thinking quite positively about his series against Detroit. I thought his game 6 was particularly interesting because all year we saw him shy so much away from physicality, and we saw that defensively, and we saw that when he was attacking the rim, we saw that as a rebounder, and he met Detroit's physicality and became more physical. Instead of crumbling, he actually ratcheted up his own physicality, and I thought he played the best defense he's played all season in the Detroit series. He did a really good job when he had to guard Cade. I think Cade had like a 30% effective field goal percentage when Bridges was guarding him during the series. Yeah, he did a really, really good job when he had to guard Cade. He was really good off the ball. He was disrupted. He had some great closeouts. He had the dunk on Cade at
what a
game
freaking
6
that was.
When it's like I was certain he was gonna step back at 6 feet and shoot a ball away. Yeah, I mean, the guys in the locker room were all. It's the only dunk I've ever seen that was a legitimately good dunk, and then everybody in the locker room after was making fun of the guy. Like they were all just teasing him, being like he didn't even get in the air. Cam Payne, I was talking to Cam. I have a story on Bridges that'll be up in the morning, and Cam Payne and Bridges were incredibly close friends. Cam was kind of teasing him about it, so Bridges as a joke started to kind of lean into it and reenact it. And Cam says he didn't jump that high; it was all arm. The only time I've ever heard a dunk described as all arm in my entire life, which I thought was very funny. But he did a great job guarding screens. He was pressing up against his man. He was sliding in front of those screens and did a good job. Like Duran's a good screener. He did a really good job defensively in that series, and he's going to have to keep that energy into the Boston series. He's going to have to, because Boston is a finesse team, obviously, but you are like, they're both, they're physical defensively, they're physical as screen setters, like they're everything. And you're going to have to meet them with that same energy that you met Detroit.
I love it. That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing it on the pod. Okay, we have to go a little bit rapid fire because you have literally 10 minutes to go. I am going to take Al Horford. Again, this is not the best players draft. Derek White is like, I don't know. He's like a New York bagel, like with cream cheese. Like you could trip over a bagel shop and it's good. Like, oh, this is good. This hits the spot. Like, you know exactly what you're going to get from Derek White. Al Horford, I guess there's like a little bit more of a wild card there for me because the Knicks are going to, whenever he's in the game, I would imagine he's the guy that they're going to, shade off of or at least dare him to beat them. And Al Horford's 38 years old. He's going to be 39 in a month. He's been punishing people in all sorts of ways for 20 plus years since he was in freaking Florida, and he's probably going to do it again. And he's really good. And that's why I'm going to take him.
Love it. I'll go Deuce McBride, who scored 23 points in 6 games against the Pistons. And I don't think kind of what I said about Pritchard before. Like, I don't think the Knicks just absolutely positively need Deuce McBride to look like Deuce McBride. And we'll say the caveat, he hasn't looked like that since returning from the knee injury.
Nope.
It's not just the playoffs. He returned from the knee injury and he has not looked like the best version of himself. He looks like he's still working his way back. But he's going to be guarding Pritchard a lot because of how the matchups work out or the minutes work out. And there are a lot of moments where he helped off of shooters in the Detroit series and he got burned. Yeah. And Pritchard will burn him if he helps off of shooters too much. He looked like he lost his confidence offensively in game 6. He kind of Ben Simmons the wide open layup at one point. I thought he could go right at the rim, and he kicked it back out. Is
that when he fumbled the ball out of bounds off his foot?
Different play. It was on a break where I thought he could have gone at the rim, and he didn't look at the rim. He just passed it back out and just received the basketball and immediately passed it. And I was like, this is not a guy who's playing with the utmost confidence. And normally that's jarring from him because he is an incredibly confident player.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about the Knicks getting up threes? You want to talk about the Knicks from a spacing perspective? You want to talk about the Knicks if Porzingis is guarding Josh Hart and the offense becomes untenable because Porzingis has just been so good guarding Josh Hart because Hart's not hitting his threes, plus because of the way Porzingis is clogging up the paint. Like, Deuce McBride might be that dude who has to come in and play with the starting 5. And there were a lot of lineups this year that were fantastic that included Deuce McBride. Basically all their best lineups had Deuce McBride in them. But he has got to perform.
Deuce McBride against the Sixers in the first round last year.
Deuce Bride.
Did I say Deuce Bride? I thought I said
Deuce Bride.
It was a quick Mick. Shot 43.3%.
Quick Mick for Deuce Bride.
43% from 3, 13 for 30 over the 6 games. If the Knicks got the version of Deuce McBride versus the Sixers if they got the version that just showed up in the Pistons series, I'm not 100% sure that they beat Philly. He was that important to that series. And it's such a shame that before the season started, I think if you had asked any Knick fan, like, hey, what do you think about, with the matchup with the Celtics, go like down the list, and then you get to the bench. It's like, all right, what do you think about Deuce versus Pritchard? And I think most Knick fans, not unreasonably so, could have been like, oh, we can have the advantage there. Like, absolutely, that could be advantage Knicks. And now we're sitting here being like, can McBride be in the same universe as Pritchard in this series? Like, it's not what you want.
It's a syllable off his name. That's where he's at.
Am I really? Oh, Jesus. You could take Mitch. I'll take Derek White. Derek White's a really good basketball player.
How do you know I'm taking Mitch?
You're right. You could take Sam Hauser or Cameron Payne. You could take Landry Shamet. You could take Precious Achiuwa is right there for you. He is right there. He's on the board. He's available.
I could take Kevin McCullough Jr., even though he's not even eligible to play in the series. I could do it.
Please take Precious Achiuwa.
I could take anyone I want. I could take Kurt Thomas as the honorary Andrew isn't here pick. I could take Martell Webster.
I don't even know who is the Celtics 13th man or whatever the last spot on the.
I'll take Mitchell Robinson.
Okay, say something about Mitch then.
For the Knicks to compete in this series, they will absolutely have to win the possession game by a large margin because there's no way they're going to win the 3-point man. Like, if you told me the Knicks won the series, I'd be like, wow, that's an improbable, incredible series win. And then you'd be like, do you think they won the 3-point game? I'd be like, no, of course not. They won it in other ways. And the way that they're going to have to make up for those points is by winning the possession game, which means they are going to have to not turn the ball over, and they're going to have to force turnovers themselves, and they are going to have to demolish on the boards. And Mitchell Robinson has had moments where this postseason where I've been like, oh my freaking goodness, this dude is still a monster, especially on the offensive glass. And he can do that against Boston.
He can.
He also might just be incredibly important for them defensively. If Towns is getting hurt, you might have to go to a double big lineup. Celtics will play double big sometimes. You'll be able to play double big against the Celtics lineups. And if Towns is in foul trouble, because you're playing more aggressive pick and roll coverages, and Towns is in foul trouble, Mitchell Robinson's going to have to come in and play. And who knows? it might just be a coach's decision. I mean, Tibbs closed a second quarter with Mitchell Robinson over Towns purely for basketball reasons earlier in the Detroit series.
Yep.
Like, if Towns they're just running pick and roll after pick and roll at Towns, and Celtics is getting 3, and Mitchell Robinson comes in and is a very good, impactful defender, which is the most likely scenario, then we might see a game where Mitchell Robinson closes over Towns.
I don't think this is a remotely controversial statement, but like, other than Tibbs, I don't think that there's anyone in the New York Knicks organization that this series will be more of a referendum on whether they are on the team next year than Mitch. And I say, and like, if they're going to make any kind of a move this summer that does not involve a core piece, I'm like, yeah, we'll have conversations when the time comes about whether or not they can move a core piece. It's probably going to have to involve Mitchell Robinson's salary. But if he goes out there and shows that, like, I could be an impactful defender against this Celtics team with how they go about offense, then that could just change the conversation and be like, oh, okay, if that's what he's capable of, and he could help us in a big way here, to say nothing of the stuff you talked about with the offensive rebounding, then maybe that, I don't know, maybe that keeps him around even longer. That would be my thought there.
We did it.
It's 4:34. You have the hardest of outs in less than 60 seconds. What do you want to plug or promote before you get out of here?
Listen to Katz and Shoot. Subscribe to Katz and Shoot at patreon.com/Katz and Shoot. I have a story on Mikal Bridges coming out on Saturday morning. You can look out for. Mikal was nice enough to stay with me after the game, chat with me after game 6, and just kind of a little bit about what we discussed today, just his physicality, and he had some interesting quotes, I thought, which were worthwhile and worth reading. And that's it. I'll have a Celtics preview coming up with James Edwards and Jay King later in the week. I'm still covering the Knicks for The Athletic until the playoffs are done. So it's got me and James. Look out for all of James's great work too. James did a great story on after Brunson's game winner on Thursday. Go read that.
I just got very offended that I did not receive any texts with the Bridges quotes that are going to appear in the story, and I'm hurt. That's all.
Wow. You should be.
I am. I'm very hurt.
Okay, it's 4:35.
Bye, Fred, and everybody out there. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe, rate, review, the whole thing. We'll be back with a ton more stuff before the Celtics series starts. Before you know it, peace out.